Hello, I'm Grim Grindle. Welcome back to Wash and Dry Part 10. That's right, folks, I finally looked it up. And I've got a good feeling about Part 10 because right off the bat, we've already had a small success and we've gotten the first Jinjo. And so, having collected the first Jinjo, the sentient washer-dryer machine come adventurer engages in a conversation with the sentient tree trunker come tree, which, following that short conversation and following some of Kazooie's wonderfully lewd marks, means that it's time to actually set out into the desert and start collecting Jiggies. And I must say, what a day it is to adventure into a desert. You see, in direct contrast to my complaint in the last episode that the game's weather wasn't exactly lining up with the real-life weather that I'm currently experiencing, recording this audio today, it's currently 42 degrees Celsius, and so I can really sympathise with that there washer-dryer. Although I suppose only to a certain degree, because I don't think washer-dryers actually are capable of feeling the temperature, and so I'm probably suffering more than it. Now, fun fact, the horrific mummified hand that just reached out of the ground and chased me was the very same horrific mummified hand that, as a younger Grim, made me afraid of horrific disembodied mummified hands. To this day, if I see a horrific mummified disembodied hand come out of the ground, I still attempt to steer clear of it. However, moving on from that, and moving up the Sphinx, because it's time to solve the problem of the Sphinx, but not through solving a riddle, but instead through shooting eggs up into its nose. I'm surprised that Oedipus never thought of trying that one. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs during the day, and 3 legs in the evening? That's a really good question. May I postulate that the answer might be 2 eggs right up your snoz? And while I know in reality that's not exactly the answer that Sophocles gave to the riddle, in this situation, it's going to work just as darn well. In fact, it might even work better because, after all, if Oedipus was helping unblock a nose and was hunting for Jiggies rather than just trying to avoid his fate, his situation might have worked out far less tragically, far less disgustingly, and ultimately far less gruesome. And so with that snoz now as clear as the blue sky amidst a summer's day in Hazard County, it's time to go inside the Sphinx. And what else might you expect to find in a giant talking magical creature other than flying carpets and smaller versions of said magical creature sticking out of its innards? I said it would be less gory, I just didn't say by how much. This, like many of the other challenges in Banjo-Kazooie, relies on absolutely no skill, and as long as you know what you're supposed to do, which you of course will if it's not the first time you've been playing through the game, you can do it with literally no effort. I mean, I suppose it's essentially simple puzzle solving, and once you've figured out that most of the troubles in this game can be solved by shooting an egg into something, excluding Trunker, then the second time round, you'll find that these challenges are, well, definitely far less challenging. And I suppose, in truth, this game would probably have very little replayability if it wasn't for the fact that it's just so darn charming. And though I have indeed passed this game many times before, I've never done so as a washer-dryer machine, so hopefully that recently collected Jiggy will bring me one step closer to doing so. But that's not the only treasure that this here room yields, so next up we've got to get ourselves a Jinjo who is no doubt hiding inside here to escape the heat, which I can fully sympathise because that's what I'm doing by doing this recording. And so, don't worry little orange Jinjo, I didn't miss you, I saw you on the way in, and you'll now be safe from the heat, hiding inside this small metal cube of a washing machine while it dances around in the hot desert air. Oh, actually come to think of it, you might have been better off where you were. But regardless, we're not quite yet ready to go back into the hot summer air yet, because there's still a few more treasures yet to be found in here, namely of course the music notes, of which there are 4 of them. And on top of said 4 music notes, there is of course one other item in here of note, which is a very carefully guarded Mumbo Jumbo token protected by yet another horrific mummified disembodied hand, but luckily for me, I don't want it anyway, and so he who holds dominance over those disturbing demonic digits can keep the token in his own domain. Speaking of domain, we are now done with the demonic digits domus, so let's venture back out into the heat and wish we had better air conditioning. Although, let's not venture too far, because we are in fact climbing back up on his roof, because we need to utilise the flight pad on the top of the Sphinx in order to, well, fly, as is the nature with flight pads. And so, reaching the summit of the Sphinx, in order to reach far higher, we are granted a view of Egypt that until now only Amun-Ra and Aten himself had been previously privy to. But Grim, you cry out, what about Khepri, Nut, and all the other many Egyptian gods that had dominion over the skies? Well, quite simply, yes, you're right, there were many more gods past Amun-Ra and Aten who would have had brilliant views of Egypt. It was just a throwaway line, calm down, I just simply don't plan to sit here all day rattling off gods whose divine roles would have given them picturesque vantage points. But I digress. What I'm doing at the moment, or more accurately, what I was doing, was making like a blue hedgehog and flying through hoops. Although I wasn't paying close enough attention to the cutscene and didn't see where the next one cropped up, so I'm sort of just flying around pointlessly at the moment trying to get my bearings before giving up and doing something else. In my hastily delivered defense, I do actually fly past where the next hoop is, or more accurately you can see where the next hoop should be in the background, but the draw distance for that certain object is too near, and so it simply can't be seen in the distance where it is, so I maintain that it's not entirely my fault, although it is partly my fault, because I wasn't paying attention to the cutscene that told me exactly where it is. So let's speed up my pointless and rather boring flying around in circles until a point where something more interesting is happening. Oh look, a camel, that'll do. And so, freeing the camel for purely selfish reasons, I happily accept the gift he's given to me, knowing full well that if he was aware I plan to later on treat him like a Valencia, he probably wouldn't have given me anything. That's a juicing orange for anyone that doesn't know produce. But firstly, perhaps more important than the Jiggy itself, is collecting a few more feathers, because while Jiggies are important to passing the game, feathers are important for flying. And so wading my way through scorching hot quicksand without taking any damage, because I'm a washer-dryer machine, and much like the ice-cold water and the piranha-infested swamps, scorching hot sand really doesn't bother me too much, which is really good news because I wouldn't be able to wear the rubber boots anyway, and so if I did take damage from those terrains, I'd be well and truly in trouble. Speaking of trouble, like the straight-up hero that this washer-dryer is, we make our way over and save yet another Jinjo from imminent peril, before ground-pounding a switch that I should have probably pounded earlier, because I've already flown through that hoop once before in this video. You might have missed it because it was in fast forward. But that aside, having slammed this switch got me in the mood to slam some more, and so I made like Russian tourists in 2013 and scaled the pyramid to the top, ground-pounded yet another switch, causing the ancient doors to open like the wings of a pelican preparing to take flight, slid down the pyramid like I was Indiana Jones, and raided the tomb like I was Lara Croft. Which I think is probably a good fade to black to end this here episode on. And so, with all of that said and done, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindel.